Good evening, everyone. Myself Avinash Kamble from the Department of Applied Sciences and Humanities. Today, I would like to give a brief introduction on set, multiset, and fuzzy set. So basically, a set, this is just an outline of my talk where I'll be going to talk about classical set, then multi-set, fuzzy set, and finally at the end, we'll have a difference or we can have a comparison between the two concepts, namely known as fuzzy logic as well as probability. Now, a set, as we all know that because already we have studied those set at the beginning level. Okay, when we get introduced to mathematics, as we all know that set is a collection of a well-defined object. The phrase well-defined, it gives a one particular meaning. The whatever maybe the members are there or the whatever the collection of objects are there in a particular set, it will have a same characteristics. And the objects or the members are generally known as elements of a set. So set theory, what we have studied, it's generally known as a classical set theory, which was invented by George Cantor, a German mathematician. So that's why this set theory is popularly known as a Cantorian set theory. And initially, Cantor's concept of a set means by a set, we are to understand any collection of a definite and distinct objects of our intuition of thought, which is known as elements, into a whole. So this is what the earlier principle of a particular set. Now, let's look at the representation of a set. Generally, as we know that the set is represented by capital letters like A, B, C, D, and the elements are listed within the brackets. For example, if I want to highlight over here, set A. A represents a set of colors like white, black, yellow, green, red, fine. B represents a set of some elements. So here, even the C represents a set of elements. Now, I would like to ask one few question over here. The set C, as we can see here, has an element 4, 8, and 10. Whereas the set B also has 4, 8, 10. And apart from that, one more 8, again 8, and again 10. Okay, so B and C, if I look at the set theoretical point of view, both has the same elements, but still there is a difference. We will discuss about those difference later on. A set of all even numbers like 2, 4, 6 can be represented in the set builder form, that is A equal to X, such that X represents an element of a set, which will be in the form of 2n, n being a positive integer. Apart from this representation, a set can be also represented in the form of a function, which is generally known as a characteristic function, or even more precisely known as a membership function as the characteristic function. For example, A of X. A of X has the value 1 whenever the element X belongs to a particular set A. If it doesn't belong, we assign the value 0. So this kind of nature of the representation of a function is known as a characteristic function or precisely membership function. Next, types of sets. As we all know that depending upon the nature of the elements, the sets can be further classified as a various types. Let's assume that set doesn't have any element. When it doesn't have any element, we talk about empty set or a null set. Suppose if we add only one element, a single element, then the set is known as a singleton. And let us have a finite number of elements, which calls a finite set. And if it is an infinite number of members, we can have even infinite set. Now again, subset, everyone knows here, a set A and set B. If the elements of the set A are in elements of B, then we claim that A is a subset of B. And in turn, if we have B is also, every element of B is also in A, we can even talk about the equality of two sets. And as we all know that every set is a subset of itself. Okay, every individual is the best friend of himself or herself. So every set is a subset of itself. So apart from that, we have some fundamental operation, that's a union as well as intersection. So union of two sets, we have A and B as some finite set. So as we know that union represents combining those elements which are in A as well as in B. Whereas in intersection, we are looking only those elements which are common either A to both A and B. So in this case, 1 and 9 are the common elements. So this defines intersection. So union is combining, intersection, we are looking only for the common elements. Now the question, okay, this is what the graphic generally we represent. This side is a set A, a set B. This region where the elements which falls in both A as well as B represents intersection, and combining both A and B, we can have union. Now let me come back again. Here, we just asked one question. A set A is a set of colors. Set B, 4, 8, 10. But set C is a 4, 8, 10, whereas a set B, 4, 8, 10, 8 appeared again two times apart from this 4, 8, 10, and 10 appeared once. Does it form a set? As per the classical set theory, as per the Cantorian set theory, the repetition of the elements is not allowed. If some elements are getting repeated, we don't represent them as the number of times it gets repeated. We only consider them as a once. So since it three times appeared, so I have taken only one. It two times appeared, we have taken only one. This is a set C. Yes, it is a set, but in terms of a classical set or a Cantorian set. But practically, there are certain situations where the Cantorian set or the classical set doesn't address the actual situation, or it doesn't help us to represent the given data. For example, if I want to solve a particular equation, and on solving the equation, if I'm getting the answer or the roots of the equation which are repeated, which are equal roots, how do I represent? And suppose if I have a statistical data and the data which has some elements which gets repeated, and even for chemistry, H2O, hydrogen, two atoms, then oxygen one. So some elements are getting repeated. And even the more precisely in the broader sense, if I want to have the record of a score of a batsman like a Virat Kohli, how many fours he has, how many six, how many singles he has taken, how many twos. So there the repetition is required. So in this situation, in the practical situation, where we have a data with a repeated elements, our classical set theory fails to give a particular representation, or I would say it will not help us. In that case, a new concept known as a multiset has been introduced. A multiset is just an extension or an extended notion of classical set theory. As we all know that a set is a well-defined collection of objects where the repeated occurrence of the elements, they are not allowed. Suppose, for example, the collection A, B, B, C, C, C. This representation, it forms a set only as per the Cantorian after deleting the repeated elements. That means B has repeated two times, we will have to delete once, and C has repeated three times, so we will not take the repeated elements. So here, A, B, C, it forms a representation of a set, okay, after eliminating those repetition of those elements. For example, as I told you, repeated roots of the equation, repeated observation in statistical sample, repeated hydrogen atoms, that needs to be accounted for attending exactness as well as adequacy. Now here, in a classical set, the elements are pairwise different. So that is the restriction which has been imposed on a Cantorian set. The elements to be a pairwise different. Repetitions are not allowed. But rather, if you move ahead and if you one step ahead, if you relax this restriction and allow the repeated occurrence of the elements, then we get a rich mathematical structure known as a multiset. Now, what is multiset? A multiset, or MSet for short, is an unordered collection of objects. Those objects are generally known as elements, in which, unless like a classical set, the elements are allowed to repeat. Now again, suppose some elements are allowed. Okay, already we have seen the element B has repeated two times, the element C has repeated three times. The number of copies, the number of one particular element has repeated how many times, that forms the multiplicity. Okay, then when we talk about a classical set, we count the number of elements. The number of elements, of course, in a finite set. The number of elements in a finite set, that forms the size of the set or the cardinality of a set. But in case of a M set, the number of distinct elements in a M set and their multiplicities, the number of times it has been repeated, that together forms cardinality of a M set. So cardinality of an M set is the sum of multiplicities of all its elements. And of course, the M set is called finite if the number of distinct elements and their multiplicities, if both are finite, then only we claim that M set is supposed to be a finite. In all other cases, it is an infinite set. Next, a representation of an M set. We have a various way to represent M set. The basic things I have identified, the one such is multiplicative form. An M set containing one occurrence of A, two occurrences of B, three occurrences of C, it can be in one way represented as A occurred once, B two times, C three times. This is one such representation. Or A, B, C with a suffix one, A has once, B has appeared two times, C has appeared three times. Or it can be in the form of A raised to 1, B raised to 2, C to the power of 3. These are the various forms of representing, which is generally known as a multiplicative form of an M set. Then we have a linear form. So in linear form, it is especially useful when we deal with a negative multiplicities. For example, when we have an M set with A, B, C, such a way that A has appeared two times, B has appeared three times, C has appeared four times, it can be represented in the linear way, just like a linear equation. M equal to 2 times of A, 3 times of B, 4 times of C. And the most important thing, sorry, to accommodate negative multiplicities, the round brackets are used. For example, this representation negative of E. So here 3, 5, 6, 6, okay, in the negative sense, and 5. It can be represented. 3 appeared only once, 5 appeared two times, so it is 2 into 5, okay, based on the linear form. But 6 appeared two times, and the 6 as represented in the round bracket, which represents the negative multiplicities. So negative of 2, okay, 6. So this is just a representation of an M set. Next, we can have M set representation in the form of a sequence. Then even we can represent M set as a numerical value or numeric valued function. So in general, if I want to talk in the general or a broader perspective, a mapping which maps alpha from U. What is U? U is called a universal set, or it's a universe of discourse from a set X. That mapping is generally known as this M set. Next. This is just a technical definition of an M set. As I told you in the beginning, though it is a mathematics, we will not be dealing much about the mathematics. So M set, we have a ground set D that is called a universal set. And this is a mapping A which starts from a set onto N and N with 0. Because normally the set of natural numbers comes without 0. So here we will be adding natural numbers along with the 0. This particular map, it gives an ordered pair, and that ordered pair represents as a M set. Like an M set can also be represented as a set of pairs, that is A, M, A of X. Here M, A of X1 represents a membership function, or it is a functional value, and X2. M, A of Xj, I'm sorry, actually I should put here comma, then Xj outside. That is also a representation of M set. Now again, M set is called a regular or a constant if all its objects occur with the same multiplicities. M set is called a simple if objects are same. This is what about the M set. Now, we have seen classical set. Then there are certain restrictions on the classical set. When if you relax that restrictions, we will get M set. So classical set or M set, at the most, what is the role that is playing? They will simply help us to represent the data. Okay, but they will only help us to represent the given data, and those data are helpful for further calculation. Now again, if you want to have a calculation, then again there are computing things. Again, there are so many soft computing, hard computing things comes, which I'll be discussing later. But apart from set, M set, then one more type that is popularly known as a fuzzy set. So what is fuzzy set? Basically, fuzzy sets were introduced by this gentleman known as the father of fuzzy set, Professor Lotfi Zadeh. So basically, he's an Iranian American mathematician. Okay, as an extension of classical notion of sets. So what does it mean? The word or the phrase fuzzy means. Fuzzy means vagueness. Fuzzy means not clear. Fuzzy, which is not, there's a kind of confusion, which is not clear-cut information. So fuzziness occurs when the boundary of a piece of information is not clear-cut. Okay. Now here, I would like to just inform all of you. This Professor Lotfi Zadeh, he has introduced the concept in 1965 at MIT. And he has passed away recently in 2017, 6 September, at the age of 96 years. So what I'm trying to tell you is, he was the only person, I mean, as per my information, who has given the birth to a new concept called a fuzzy set of fuzzy logic. And he has literally seen how the subject has been flourished, how the subject has been developed, and the new branch of soft computing came into the existence. That's called an artificial intelligence, which is exclusively based on the fuzzy set. Okay, next. So again, there are two possibilities. One is a crisp and fuzzy. Crisp in the sense, if the boundaries are strict, like 0, 1, okay, in the classical notion of sets or in the Cantorian set, if the elements belongs to the set, we assign the value 1. If the element doesn't belong to the particular set, we assign the value 0. So in the classical, in the crisp way, we are playing only with the 0, 1, 0, 1, yes, no, true, false. And let us see what is the basic difference between crisp versus fuzzy. Here is an example. Is Ram honest? As for the Boolean logic, it is either true or false. It could be yes or no. It could be either in terms of a numerical values, we can assign 1 or 0. But does it practically happens? Either we can judge the person with only two parameters, 0, 1, true, false, yes, no, no. It doesn't, it doesn't happen like this. So in this situation, I may be required to take a name of a particular person. Instead of Ram, can I replace it here as a Vikram? Is Vikram honest? Extremely dishonest? Sometimes honest? Very honest? Extremely honest? Hello?
Sir, extremely sounds good, sir.
Yeah. Extremely sounds very nice, but this depends on the situation. Okay, there are 4 different parameters, and as we all know that on the depending on the situations, we adopt the situation and we try to behave like this. So this nature is known as a fuzzy nature. So this is a fuzzy logic where we can adopt those things: extremely dishonest, extremely honest, very honest, sometimes honest. So in practical situation, in practical view, so we are not using the crisp things, rather we are using fuzzy logic. Again, there's a one more thing: crisp versus fuzzy. Let's look at the room temperature. So here horizontally, I mean, we can find the temperatures like in this differences or the interval of 10 between -10 to 0 as a cold, 0 to 10 cool, 10 to 20 warm, and 20 to 30 hot. And here vertical, of course, a membership function. And those 4 different segments can be very easily identified with the 4 colors. This is what about the crisp nature, okay? But here we can observe one thing: -10 degree to 0 degree. Here it is cold, but after that suddenly it comes as a cool between 0 to 10. But what about this transition? There is a transition has been happening. At say morning 6 o'clock, temperature, room temperature was different. At 10 o'clock, room temperature is different. 12 o'clock, room temperature is different. It suddenly gets doesn't transform cold to cool. Suddenly not possible that cool to warm or warm to hot. That transition, it takes place slowly. And during that transition, there is one particular time slot where it shows the intersection. It is neither cold nor cool. It is neither cool nor warm. It's not neither warm nor hot. In this situation, our crisp logic doesn't help at all. There, we will have to use fuzzy logic. So why fuzzy set? The words like young, tall, good, high, they are actually fuzzy in nature because of these linguistic variables. There is no single quantitative value which defines the term called young, because in human thinking and reasoning, it frequently involves the fuzzy information. For example, if you are talking about the young, for some people, 18 age might be young, and for some others, it could be even 25. So the concept of basically young is not have clear boundaries. It doesn't have a clear boundaries. It depends on the context. For me, it is even a 35 is a young. Yeah. So here we can have the best interpretation: the young between 0 to 35, middle age between 20 to 60, and old age we can claim between 45 to 80. So what about this region who falls in the category between 20 to 35? Are they fall in the category called young or middle age? What about this region between middle age and old age? There is a what do you call blending between them between 45 to 60. Are they middle-aged people or the old people? So this always creates a confusion when we go with a Boolean logic. So that means practically knowingly or unknowingly, we are using fuzzy logic. Now, what is a fuzzy set? Now let's come back to the fuzzy logic is based on the fuzzy set. And fuzzy set is an extension, classical extension of Cantorian set. A fuzzy set A on a real line R is defined to be a set of ordered pairs. One is X and one is mu A of X. So mu A of X, it is known as a membership function. And this membership function playing the role to to identify the degree of belongingness of that particular object or that particular element between 0 to 1, and that is called a membership function. And the together ordered pair, it forms a fuzzy set. Then some mathematical terms, that is alpha cut and the normal. Okay, let's not bother about those things, let's move ahead. Now again, two fuzzy sets are, okay, we have the two fuzzy sets, then mu A and mu A B are known as membership functions respectively with respect to A as well as B. If one is less than or equal to B, we claim that one is contained into other. Okay, so here particularly mu A of X is less than or equal to mu B of X. That means A is a subset of B or A is contained in B. Again, if mu A of X is strictly less than mu B of X, then it is known as a proper subset. And if there happens to be equal, then we claim that if the memberships are equal, then we claim that the two fuzzy sets are equal. And of course, we have a complement. Next. Now again, just like a classical set, in terms of a fuzzy set, we also deal with a union as well as intersection, which will be defined with the help of this membership function. This is one set with a mu A, okay, mu A of X, a one type of membership function. We have a one more membership function. This is called a Gaussian curvature, mu B of X. Between mu A and mu B, when we talk about the union always gives the maximum between mu A and mu B. That is best interpreted with this diagram or the graph. Again, when we talk about the intersection, it always gives the value between mu A and mu B. That is a minimum value. This is the other graph will indicates the intersection. So it is union and the other one is intersection. Next, as I told you, the fuzzy, it is based on the linguistic variables. At the root of the fuzzy set theory, it lies in the linguistic variables. And the linguistic variable means Ram is tall. Tall means what? Is it 6 feet tall, 6.5, 7? There is no particular, phrase to define a particular tallness. So in directly or indirectly, we will be using so many linguistic variables, which gives a clear picture about the fuzziness. For example, a fuzzy expert system, the linguistic variables are used. If wind is strong, then sailing is good. If project duration is long, then completion risk is high. If speed is slow, then stopping distance is short. Now, as I told you, computing. So here we have classical set theory. It fails, so we have introduced M set. Those M set and classical set only helps us to represent the data. Then once we are accumulated with the data, then we talk about the computation. And again, if you talk about computation in the broader perspective, computation can be defined, can be divided or can be classified as two types. One is hard computing and soft computing. What is hard computing? On one hand, I have a particular equation or particular formula, and I have relevant data also. So what I'll do, I'll substitute the data in that particular formula. By substitution of the data, I'll get the correct answer because the data, the inputs what I was giving, that was very much clear. The data was 100% correct. So definitely we will get the correct thing. But in practical situations, it doesn't happen. Hard computing basically is a conventional way of computing, what normally we does. But whereas it comes to a soft computing, the input or the data what we are dealing, the data itself is in the raw form. The data itself is an imprecise. The data itself is a confused data. The data itself is a complex kind of thing where there is no clear picture about those data. If it doesn't have the clear picture, how do we come across a proper conclusion? That conclusions can be done with the help of one of the soft computing component that is known as a fuzzy logic. And that soft computing component, which is of course one of the component is a fuzzy logic that largely plays, okay, based on inductive reasoning. Okay, then we have the various aspects of soft computing, and through soft computing, artificial intelligence is a soft computing only. So soft computing basically it deals with an approximate models, and again approximate models two classification, approximate reasoning. There we will have a probabilistic reasoning and a fuzzy logic. And one more as a random search, neural network, evolutionary computing, and genetic algorithm. So together, fuzzy logic, neural network, evolutionary computing, genetic algorithm, that constitutes artificial intelligence. So basically, I think already everyone knows about the artificial intelligence in the previous, this faculty seminar. Artificial intelligence is something like we, we expect that machines to mimic like a human intelligence. We expect the machines to behave like a human intelligence. Now again, fuzzy logic. So when at the 1965, when the Professor Zade, when first time he has introduced the word fuzzy, many people have, they didn't agree at all, because for them a fuzzy, it normally tends in a negative sense. But basically a fuzzy term, according to him, is a concrete, immediate, and descriptive. And logic, the fuzziness rests on the fuzzy set theory, and the fuzzy logic is just a small part of the theory. But when you combine both the things, what does it a fuzzy logic means? A fuzzy logic is a representation and the inference from the knowledge, and that knowledge in the sense that data, the collection of raw material which is imprecise and which is uncertain. And that kind of logic is deals with the fuzzy logic. How fuzzy logic is used in maths? In maths also, we come across certain situation when we claim the word, some terminology, almost 5, more than 50, less than 50, almost, more than, less than, it doesn't have the clear boundaries. That is, that kind of situation will be dealt with the fuzzy numbers. Then comes fuzzy geometry. In fuzzy geometry also we claim almost straight lines, not exactly straight lines, almost straight lines. Even we can have a fuzzy calculus, fuzzy algebra, fuzzy graphs. We have so many interpretation with the basic things that can be viewed with the help of a fuzzification. Okay, yeah. Now fuzzification and defuzzification. Fuzzification is something like transforming an information from crisp into fuzzy. And defuzzification, from fuzzy, again we are getting back to crisp. It is simple words. It is right now we all started Laplace transform. We have a function, we apply Laplace, we will get a function which disappears t, and we will get s. Again, by using inverse Laplace transform, we will, by using pullback function, we will get back to the original things. And again, if you really want to interpret, you might have heard about cryptography and the number theory. At that time also, I have an information. I'll be encoding that information in the translated that is language like 0101. It will be encoded. It is sending through a channel, and finally it will get decoded. That encoding, decoding, in the similar context, it is known as a fuzzification and defuzzification. So I'll be using the crisp inputs, fuzzification, and while fuzzification, the membership function plays a very important role. Then we will have a fuzzy inputs and rule evaluation. There are certain rules known if and then rules. By using those rule evaluation from the crisp, we will get a fuzzy input. And when we have a defuzzification, again by fuzzy output, we will have again the final output of by end product as a crisp input. So I would say the fuzzification is just like the that plays a role of a catalyst. That's it. Next, simple example of fuzzy logic. Controlling a fan. It could be a ceiling fan or it might be a table fan. In a conventional model, okay, let us assume that if the temperature is more than X, let's set X as a 30 degree. If the temperature, room temperature is more than 30 degree, run fan or else stop fan. That is what the Boolean logic. Okay, but are we literally doing those things? No, but rather we work on this fuzzy system. What is a fuzzy system? If temperature is hot, run the fan at full speed. If temperature is warm, run fan at a moderate speed. When it temperature seems to be a comfortable, maintain the speed of a fan. And if it is found to be a cool, slow down the fan. And if temperature is terribly cold, then stop the fan. As we have observed that on that holder, between 0 and 1, that is between on and off. 0 means off, on means 1. Between 0 and 1, at 1, 2, 3, 4, at a different stage, we are operating our fans. That is a fuzzy things. Applications. The theory of fuzzy sets and fuzzy logic, it is applied everywhere wherever the data is not clear, wherever the data is imprecise data, like pattern recognition, decision support, data mining, medicine, topology, linguistic, automata, game theory, artificial intelligence. Wherever decision making things are there, even in transportation problem, the fuzzy systems helps a lot. Recently, fuzzy machines have been developed, including automatic train control, tunnel digging machinery. Even if you take the home appliances, Whirlpool washing machine, it automatically takes the amount of washing powder, the amount of water is required. That machine itself decides to what extent, depending upon the weight of the cloth, depending upon the how much clothes we are going to put for the this one washing. So automatic washing machines, that is nowadays works on the fuzzy logic. Even air conditioners now. What is the basic difference? Because again, there was a debate among the mathematicians, when the probability is already there, then what is the need of having a fuzzy logic as a one more parallel concept? What is fuzzy logic? Fuzzy logic and probability, it refers to a two different kinds of uncertainty. And what is fuzzy logic? Fuzzy logic specially designed to deal whenever we deal with an imprecise data, whenever there is a confusion in the data, while the probability deals with the chances of happening a particular event. Probability is a measure how likely an event is occur. It's just like if you toss a coin, what is the probability of it getting a head or what is the probability of getting not head? Whereas in case of a fuzzy logic, it gives the answer that to what extent it is, it belongs to a particular region between 0 and 1. Fuzzy logic associates a real number between 0 and 1, inclusive statement, instead of targeting an event. So at the end, Professor Lotfi Zade, the creator of fuzzy logic, argues that a fuzzy logic is totally different in character from probability, and it is not a replacement of it at all. Rather, he created a fuzzy alternative to probability, which he calls as a possibility theory, which is not that much of popular, but okay. But parallelly, he has created a possibility theory which resembles like a probability theory. So with this, I would like to stop here only.